I think some of you were not here when I started, and it's important to calculate what I said. I said that we have a problem that we have had for 100 years of a system that was brought to us by a private company that became a government. And that system was about exploitation, extraction, and dominance. That is the bed of corruption. That is the bed of what Milton is calling economic genocide. That is where it is anchored. So we have an onerous duty to change that system. And you change that system with ideology. We must create our own system. What we are living today is a system brought to us by a colonialist. We have to change that system. We have to create a system which is not about extraction from our land, that is not about exploitation of our people, that is not about domination of our people. And we fortunately have got a very good constitution that anchored our political rights and give us a platform to do it. And that platform that we are trying to do is the economic liberation. This is what we now need to deal with. And this is where all your questions are answered, whether it is corruption, theft, economic genocide. This is where they're answered. But we've got to understand that we've got to change the system. So going to Lady Justice, you talked about how is education and productivity together. And we had a question from Mizani about 844 and CBC, performance-based and competence-based. What is this about our education system? What is it that was put to us by the Mzungu? Was he creating leaders, entrepreneurs, slaves? What? What? What was he producing? Because this is something we inherited from him, and we are still inheriting from him. What system, what product are we getting at the end? I'll give a comparison to a place called South Korea. South Korea, they tell you categorically, because the South Korean economy grew primarily because of the taking over the shipbuilding industry. They then got into technology. And they have a very basic education. They tell you you need to be able to speak, have communication skills. You need to have a modicum of critical thinking through math. The rest will come as you and. But there are two things that will ensure that you have employment. Anything to do with whether it's marine law, steel, metal, ended up doing Hyundai cars, Daewoo cars, and so on, and machinery, right? Naval architecture, right? Anything to do that you do well, and technology, chips, software. Everybody from the age of 6 knows where they are going to get employment. And that is anchored on a vision of a nation that is saying, this is our niche in the world. This is where we are going in the world. This is a place that will take us to not only our prosperity, but our influence in the world. I think in the next G7 summit, I think South Korea is being accommodated. And you imagine South Korea economically was below us in 1972, 75. It is a question of vision, vision of a leader. This is what changes everything. We had Sheila who is talking about, and you raised some very good questions, Sheila. How does one cut off the debt? How does one deal with the consequences of cutting off this debt? What happened to the public debt committee that Ruto employed? That public debt committee was just showbiz. It didn't even have one meeting, and eventually it collapsed. Public audit of debt is anchored in the controller, in the Auditor General's office. In fact, they are to submit an audited account of the debts to Parliament 6 months after a new budget. So they would have assessed the debt of the previous financial year. Nancy Gadogo has admitted that she has not done it all these years. And they say that office has not done so because they have not had enough funds and resources to spread. But that is the law, it's anchored there. Ruto will never have a public audit committee In fact, that one that was there, it was Gen Z that pushed it to a large degree, but it is something that was embedded and put by the World Bank and IMF, who said, we're having a lot of queries about this debt. What exactly has been going on here? And I hear they are still pushing, but I believe it is something that he will keep avoiding. He will say it's the Auditor General who's supposed to do it. It will be contested in court if you do otherwise, and he will never be funded to do it. And it will become something that we're just chasing up and down, because this is where the true economic genocide that Milton was talking about happened. Here is where we have a problem. We have had people who decided they are going to keep the template where 60% of Kenyans are below, are looking for food. 30% are struggling to not become the 60%. And 10% are really running the show here, but only 1% are the so called crooks, are the ones who make sure that this is embedded. Now, that 1% is the same 1% that tries to put out an election question. Izani talked about campaigning. We are campaigning because when we are talking and educating, we are. We are trying to tell you and try and tell every Kenyan here that our problem is economic. And the problem in the economy is not your productivity. It's not you who is working very hard. It's not you that is anchored in getting an education to come for a job. No, it's not you that's no. There is, as Milton put it, an economic genocide that has been done on you. And that economic genocide is this debt. It is taking away. You will never produce. You will never produce enough to take care of it. You'll never produce enough to come out of the 60% below poverty. You are going to be slaves to this for the next 60 years unless we cut it off. And if people understand that this is the problem, that that is the real question of any of the next election, then we are there. Ruto would like to make the question of the election about tribe, maybe 41 against 1 or God knows what, right? He's talking rubbish. It's got nothing to do with tribe. This is something has been part of. He created this. Normally, they say when you start doing bad things, you look for communities to save you, for communities to protect you. This is all he's doing. This has nothing to do with any community. It is a community of Kenyans that have. An economic genocide has been done on us, and we must understand how it has been done, what has been done, and that the answer is to remove this problem. You cut off debt, we are free of that genocide. And we need, that is the true question of the next election cycle, whenever it happens. It's the economy, it is not tribe, it is not what. And the leadership that is able to do that is the only one that Kenyans should be saying are going to be the ones who are elected. We want people who are going to say, we're going to cut off this pain on day one. Anything short of that, we're not hearing. We are not hearing. So, Milton, for example, you're asking, what happens to commercial banks? What can we do to stop them from loaning the government any more money? We have a big problem because the government tells them that, if you don't loan us, how do we pay your interest next week? We can't pay you. It's a Ponzi scheme. What you see as treasury bills and bonds are just to pay them back the same money because it's been accumulative of interest. So they feel if they're not going to get that money, they'll be in trouble. Their banks will close, they'll shut down. So they keep loaning. It's paper. It's a Ponzi scheme. It's literally become a Ponzi scheme. And it's getting very frightening for those banks now because as much as they have this Ponzi scheme and they're saying the difficulties government is having, they have another channel here called non-performing loans within their own cycle, which are now reaching something like 700 billion because they have stagnated the economy. The economy is dead. It has stagnated for the last 12 years. What happened under the Uhuru regime is that he created a balloon called debt, created a vehicle called government appearing like it's boosting development, but productivity was thrown out. Kibaki used to stand up and tell people, go back to your shamba, go and deliver from your shamba, Lady Justice. He used to tell people, go back, mashambani. That is when that addition took root. We had all these days in plans under even Moi. We had a plan we would be fully industrialized by 2020. What happened? Industrialization was 14% of GDP when Kibaki left. Today it is less than 7. What happened? Half have gone down. Kibaki came out with a 2030 vision. How much of it was implemented? It was never discussed and talked about in the Ruto regime. What were the milestones? Nobody talked about it. They came up with funny things like Big Four. I don't know what. Now this one comes up with bottom up. Nobody talks about 2030 vision. It's there. What happened? It was a master plan that was done, researched very well by an economic team that was very solid. Had people who came in who are ministers in Singapore. We had a lady from the UK. This was a solid program under the Ministry of Planning. And all that was thrown away because the intention was never to empower Kenyans. The intention was to make sure that we become slaves to a political regime that was bereft of ideas, but wanted to create dynasties and empires and control us. The difference with what we believe in is that we believe that we are too small an economy. Yet, even in this economy, nobody should want for anything. There is more than enough, but we need to cut off this debt. We're a $110 billion economy, GDP, per year. Well, there's no reason why we cannot be a $300 billion economy in a very short time, but we need to cut off this debt. And what happens with the $300 billion economy is that you have a country that looks similar to Dubai in terms of its infrastructure. You have literally everybody building their own houses, and they're not going to stay in mud houses. They're going to stay in decent accommodation. The dignity of every Kenyan will be there, and it will be self-propelled. And that's what the political elite do not want, because they believe that they lose power. Whereas I believe that we are about true empowerment. We actually want the Kenyan to conquer beyond our borders. We want a concept called our greatness to be seen in our lifetime. In our lifetime. Why is this the continent of the poor? Yet we are 45% of all mineral resources in the world. We are going to have by 2030, 50% of our population young, under 30, able to go out there, the biggest workforce in the world. Why should we go and work for others? Why should we not work for our own companies? Don't we have our own conglomerates that we work and are crisscrossing this continent and beyond? This is what we are talking about. And many people who have gone through previous political regimes over the last 60 years do not want that, because here they have no ideas. They have no contribution. This is what the next election should be about, not about tribe. The question of the election, which William Ruto is trying to push out, we must reject. We must say, no, my friend, come back to the issue of the economy, because here he has failed. Here he has collapsed. Here he has no solution. In fact, all he has is continual pain. He must get out of our lives, and anyone who thinks like him, who is like him, must exit. And we must cut off our slavery, which is this debt monster. We cut it off, we breathe, we have our freedom. I remember when we used to campaign for the second liberation. Mwalimu Kibwana was in the forefront. And they used to say that you remove 2A, we are free. 2A was what embedded one single party in the Constitution of Kenya called KANU. There shall be only one party called KANU, no other party. You remove 2A, we are free. I am saying our 2A today is to cut off the debt. You cut off this chain of debt, and we are economically free. Now, what are the ideas of that emancipation? That's what we should be talking about. That should be the campaign platform on anybody's plate. And that's where we should be going as a country. But I want to assure you, and I say this with all humility and with a lot of confidence, Kenya does not need any debt from anybody. Those numbers that I expressed at the beginning are true numbers. We don't need any money from anywhere. We are capable of financing ourselves to prosperity. That is how strong we are. And anybody telling you that we're a poor nation is just trying to make you think small, be small, think about the small things like food and the problems that you have in your home. They do not want you free enough to question them. This is our true emancipation. And I can tell you, this country, I have so much hope in it because we are going to get to this subject. We are going to cut off this illegal debt. We are going to cut off this genocide. And I can tell you, the future thereafter will be phenomenal for each and every one of us. It will be truly phenomenal. And I pray for that. God is with us. Kasongo is going. I don't think you need to worry too much about the man. He cannot rig an elections. We have been part and parcel of election cycles. Our reforms are so big. He has nowhere to rig. It will be so obvious to anybody. I don't even think he has the capacity or will get the goodwill. We'll see right through him. I'm so impressed by what Gen Z have done. The polling station of an election of the president is the constituency. Guard every constituency, every polling station. Tweet the results. We are not going to be manipulated by bombers here. This game will be over long before it has begun. This man is done, and he's done and he knows it. He has no recovery. The question for us is thereafter what? Because we must attain our economic freedom. I myself am committed to it. I have dedicated my life to it, to achieve it. I am about lifting. Must remember, I have a business background. A businessman does not thrive in poverty. A businessman thrives when people have got purchasing power, when they have capacity to buy what you are selling. So we want to see an emancipated, an economically emancipated Kenyan with capacity, with dignity and capacity to choose what he or she wants. That is the Kenyan we want. That is the one that grows us. That is the one that will grow a businessman. That is where I am. I do not fall into the political gambit of those who say they want to be needed as a politician. Serikali tunakuomba, mheshimiwa tunakuomba. Hapana, hapana. Those days are gone and we must make sure they are gone. It is about the people debating issues because they have their dignity. They are not looking for the most basic things of life. Their dignity is intact. We want to see a country where they flourish. We should be asked as leaders at that time, what are you doing to make sure that whatever it is we have got, whether we have got capacity to build in Uganda or Tanzania or Nigeria, or sell there our manufactured project from Kenya, why have they got tariffs on us? Why are they not opening up their barriers? Why are they restricted? That is what a leader should be going for us, not sending our labor. If we do, must be very, asanteni sana.
Wow. Abdi finish it up. Abdi.
Uh, sorry,
Abdi.
sorry, sorry, Hillary.
Yeah.
Can I just?
Yeah, what to
I
say
think
what your
I
final
want to
remarks.
appreciate Jimmy for the candid response, but there is one thing I would have wished him to respond to, and that my question was, what role he played a role in the Kibaki administration, played some role in Huruto 2013, 2017 with Raila. What role does he see himself playing in this revolution or the movement, as it were? Is he the messiah for the Kenyan people? And if not, what role does he see himself playing as we get Kasongo out and get the new leadership that we want and emancipate our people? I was very specific, and I would like to hear his thoughts on that.
Yeah, but the
Milton,
question is,
yes.
somebody said that, are
Ab-
you
ab-
the person that's coming in after Kasongo? Or I think that's
let,
the right
let,
question. Yeah.
let me be very, very, very candid. Milton, thank you for that. Let me be very clear. I do believe I am. I do believe I am the solution that Kenyans need. The solution to this particular problem that we have. I am the solution. I believe categorically that a virus was created here in 2013, 2014. That virus was a coronavirus that mutated in 2017, right? Into, it was COVID, I think it was corona, then it mutated to COVID 19. Then in 2022, it mutated into Delta. And what was the other one, Hillary? I think there were two strands, right? The two
Yeah, yeah.
strands, why?
Yes.
Because that virus was Uhuruto, all right? came in as two different entities. In Jubilee in 2017, they joined up. So they came COVID-19 to Corona. From Corona in 2022, they brothered into two strands, Delta, and the other one was the one that was less, right? Now, those two strands, okay, were Uhuru because he was backing Raila, and Ruto, who was on his own, but it's the same virus. Same virus. Whichever way you went, it was going to be the same problem. I can assure you. Because this debt, nobody would have dealt with. If Raila had tried to deal with it, he would have had Uhuru on his back. Okay? On his back. Why are you doing this? Ruto cannot deal with it because he's been in it. This is the biggest problem we have. And I do not believe, because I did not join any of those. From 2013, 2014, I left those parties. I am nowhere in those parties. And yet I understand the problem and will not be tempted to participate in any more economic genocide on Kenyans. It must end now. I believe I am the solution for it, absolutely. And what we are trying to do is educate Kenyans that this is your problem. This is it. No matter who you choose to go there, if they do not address this, you'll be chasing them out of office in the shortest time. This is the kind of problem, because now we are living the consequences of it. The problems are increasing. This is the kind of problem that even if you can put a leader tomorrow, and 3 months will be chasing them out because they are not solving this problem. And the pain is continuing. This is the single problem we have. And I believe I am the one who has the courage to stop it. And I'm the one who can see beyond it. I can see a Kenya beyond it. Many of these people will be afraid to do it. Asante sana.
Thank you so much, Mheshimiwa, for sitting here more than 4 or 5 hours, and we're going to appreciate your time. And thank you so much,
Thank you.
listeners. Always, it is very important for us to engage. Every Sunday, we're here as Pressure Point team to make sure that we focus on this. It's so unfortunate that today we are crying over our fallen soldier. That is Raymond Otieno, who was killed in Elbagon. This is so unfortunate, and I saw Willis said that they're gonna follow up on these things. Jimmy, I know we are praying that you follow this matter, because the young people are dying, and this is so unfortunate for the family, and for the comrades, and for the Gen Zs that who are trying to air their voice across the country. It's so unfortunate that we are still missing other people. Young people are dying because of airing their issues. It's so unpitiful, and we want to call this, and we are categorically say that we will follow so much about these killings, and we see if it is the regime or it is the political elite who see that they have power, then this is the time to stop. Abdi, you want to say what? Then we finish the show.
Thank you. You can hear me, Hillary?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Just to build on Jimmy's point, thank you, Honorable Jimmy. I think the chain of debt is a foundation of a true economic freedom. That's what we need. Because it's, I think we are trapped in cycle of borrowing. Our resources and labor will continue to serve the creditors than our people. I think he talked about economic emancipation with rejecting exploitative debts and prioritizing self-reliance and investing in local industries to create a sustainable growth. I think that was really a very good discussion. As we come to close to this discussion today, I want to thank everybody for their time, insights, and unwavering commitment to a better Kenya. Special thanks to Honorable Jimmy Wanjigi and Professor and everybody else for the conversation. I think Jimmy anchored the conversation in history and reminded us of the urgent need for economic emancipation, sustainable growth. His insight has inspired us to confront the burden of debt and governance with clarity and purpose, I think. Today, dialogue has reinforced the future of Kenya lies in our hands. Together, we must remain united, vigilant, action-driven to build a nation grounded in justice, equality, and opportunity for all. Change will not just come as easy, but with collective action and resilience, I believe we will reach there. Let's carry the energy, the idea shared today to a meaningful conversation that push closer to Kenya we aspire to see. Thank you all for your dedication to this cause. Stay focused, stay united, continue working stronger together. And asanteni sana, may God bless you all.
God bless you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Honorable. Mungu akubariki sana. Uwe na siku mwema kila mmoja. Hadi Jumapili ijayo tukutane tena. Barikiwe sana.
Barikiwe.